I was going back through my diary and I realised it was 12 months ago that Minister Boot came up with what he planned to happen in government buildings. Um, it is an interesting move, but 12 months on, we've actually still got things like plastic cups. So I did want to ask what's actually happening in government buildings and will that be pushed out into the wider economy?
There is a document later on the order paper about single-use plastics. What do you make of that?
It's positive. Things happening in kind of 2 years' time. We always seem to have a distance between us here and what we perhaps do want more instantly. It is positive and definitely moving in the right direction, but I do think we need to kind of take a step back to make sure that what's been aimed at so far is actually being achieved.
On a related note, you're also asking about water bottles in schools. Is this something that you would hope to see decreasing over time, the amount of water sales?
Yeah, it's given what's been happening at Ramsey and most of the secondary schools, this movement towards a real awareness of what's happening in the world, you would expect a decline. The size of the decline is going to be interesting because it's actually been much cooler this year. The average temperatures of the 2 weeks were nearly 3 degrees different, so much cooler, less water required. Also, you've got things like more water fountains. Is that having an impact? So there will be data, we'll be prodding slightly further into it to see if other things have influenced it. But yeah, it will be an interesting figure.
There are plans for a new school in your constituency at the moment. Are water fountains and things like that something you'd like to see incorporated?
I think the environmental aspects and the use of resources are going to be key, and it's interesting that more people are now saying to the minister, are you looking at the environmental considerations? And he seems to be quite keen to push those.
And you've touched on it already, but is it something you would like to see across more schools on the island?
Definitely. The only problem I've got with the environmental issues is that it's moved away from what people should just be doing naturally. And I think that's quite an important thing, that it's not just about the wider environment, that is really important, but also just behaving properly and using resources in a way that are not going to do damage for other people and future generations.
You're also asking for details on fly tipping, fixed penalty notices. This is something you've asked about before, I believe. Why is it coming up again?
This is a question I actually asked. This is the fourth time I asked it. I asked it initially to the Attorney General because I thought if I went straight to the area where decisions are made in terms of legal action, I'd have an awareness of what was going on. And the answer on that occasion was slightly disappointing. There were examples of people going through the courts and receiving fines for fly tipping and related issues, but it became clear that it was beyond this group of people. It was actually going out to the commissioners, it was actually going out to DEFA, and in this case it's actually looking at Home Affairs. So I thought with this question I could go back to the actual laws, the actual policing, and find out what's going on. It's quite an interesting one in that I've actually done a Freedom of Information request, and I've asked this same question to all the local authorities, and the three answers tend to be repeated of 000. So even though there is an issue and people are aware of this issue, nothing's really been done to enforce and stop the problem happening.
Given that you have had to ask this question to a few different people, is this something you'd like to see centralised for there to be one department dealing with fixed penalties for fly tipping?
Well, definitely, and that's why I'm kind of moving towards Home Affairs in terms of they're responsible for policing and they've got the resources to deal with this, hopefully. And so it'll be interesting to see how the Minister responds to that very suggestion. Could Home Affairs deal with this in a more proactive and efficient manner than actually splitting up responsibility to different levels of government and different areas of government?
You're asking for an update on the works at the NSC. The pool was expected to be open by now. It isn't. What's happening? What's your take on this?
It has been suggested that it could be open relatively soon. The school holidays are starting very, very soon, and I was hoping that the Minister will be able to come back and say before the end of the school holidays, even halfway through the school holidays, we're going to have the pool open. So it's really a hope question.
How important is the facility to the island?
I think we actually look at what's been happening in Gibraltar. It's an amazing facility, and to see those swimmers perform so well without their key asset is incredible. And going forward, it's something that more people should be encouraged to use. And yeah, it's a great facility that we need to get back in there.
Well, touching on the island games a bit there, we've had the announcement this week that the Isle of Man is the preferred host for 2027. And with that in mind, how important is it that we keep up to date with our sporting facilities?
Oh, most definitely that's going to be key. It's quite a number of years since they last came to the island. When they came to the island, they were impressed with what we had. And when they come to the island in the future, we want that same image, that same attention to detail, so they go away thinking, yeah, the Isle of Man is the place to be.